Have you ever felt an intense emotion that you just didn't understand? Maybe you were having the most beautiful sunny day with your friends, and then all of a sudden you felt this violent reaction that made you feel angry or upset. Maybe you found yourself going into a spiral of disappointment, of frustration without understanding why. Let me know if you can relate to that, because if so, you are not alone. What I'm talking about are emotional triggers. And the truth is, we don't really have enough education around emotions, let alone emotional triggers, to really understand what's going on inside of ourselves. What's going on in our thought process when we have that visceral response of anger, sadness, defeat, disappointment, resentment, whatever it is, no judgment, no judgment in healing. Today's Thursday Tickle is really going to break down 5 ways to understand your triggers. 5 gentle ways to really start exploring your sense of self to have a better idea of when these triggers are coming into our lives. Because the truth is, we all get triggered. Healing is not linear. Triggers are part of the human experience because oftentimes they come with wisdom. However, if we aren't sure when we're being triggered, it's going to be real difficult for us to hear that wisdom, let alone process it. But don't worry, I am here to share these 5 powerful tips with you. And it's so relevant because, for example, yesterday I went to the spa for the very first time. And you would think, spa, nice and relaxing, but I got triggered. I was triggered. I was triggered going into the spa because I felt it first in my body, this feeling of restlessness, of anticipation. I know that excitement and nervousness and anxiety vibrate in the body at the same level, but this felt different. This felt angry. It felt heavy. And what I realized was I was triggered going to the spa for 2 reasons. One, physical touch, due to some physical traumas that I've had in my life, both acute and complex. I find sometimes that being put in situations where I'm going to be touched can make me feel a little restless, can trigger me into some other states. And the other trigger that I was navigating was the feeling of being trapped. I'm there on a massage table. What if I want to leave? What if I can't leave? And that was a trigger for me. So if you're interested in some ways to process that, let me know in the comments. Drop a little purple heart and I'll reach out to you with some 4 powerful tips to do so. But first, let's talk about how to understand our triggers. Because if we don't know what our triggers are or that they're even happening, it's going to be difficult to even learn how to process them. So let's go ahead and dive into our Thursday tickles. What are Thursday tickles? A time where I tickle you with information for your personal expansion. Why? So you can have more power and choice in navigating all of life's challenges and adventures. So, what are triggers? Triggers are something or someone that are going to give some intense emotional reaction inside of us. They don't always have to be negative, they can be positive. But for the purpose of this, I'm going to talk about maybe some of those more unwanted, visceral triggers that tend to happen, the ones that society tends to avoid. You see, triggers are kind of like landmines in the sense that they're buried underneath the surface. We don't always know where they're going to be, so we can't always prepare or anticipate them. However, we could be having a beautiful, relaxing day and then end up walking over one of those landmines. And in that space, we're going to have that reaction, that blow up of emotion, because it's going to be triggering us, setting us back into an intense emotion that we had around that. I like to think of emotional triggers as trauma echoes. I heard this term the other day and found it so beautiful and relevant because triggers are going to kind of be that trauma echo, that echo of an experience that we are holding on to that we haven't fully processed. So, 5 ways to really understand that. The first way I want to share with you is really to just tap into your self awareness. I know you're like, Des, that's so annoying. Self awareness. I know. I know, trust me. Probably for the first year of my own healing journey, I was rolling my eyes at the A word, awareness. But it's so powerful because when you are able to really have an open communication with your mind and body, you're going to start to hear those warning signs come out before you feel that violent reaction of explosive anger, uncontrollable grief, rage, resentment. being able to become aware of what you're thinking and what you're feeling is such a beautiful gift. I know it can feel really overwhelming, but all you have to do is take it one step at a time. I'm not asking you to go and be self aware and do hours of meditation, because we want to make sure that in this process of understanding our triggers and just healing and growing, that we're going at a pace that feels safe, not just for our mind, but also for our nervous system. We're rewiring and reprogramming years or decades of experience. So be compassionate. There's some different ways that you can really start to explore self awareness. So, one of the different ways is just to check in with your breath. Am I holding my breath right now? Am I engaging in shallow breathing? If you are no stranger to trauma like myself, then you might notice that your breathing is shallow all the time, because you're in such a chronic state of stress or trauma or tension that that survival instinct is always on. You're always in this state of tension, always in this place of hypervigilance. But really being able to connect to the breath is going to be like kind of giving you a little microscope so you can explore yourself. Ooh, I'm holding my breath. Ooh, I've noticed I have shallow breathing. What is causing me to be in this state of hypervigilance, in the state of survival? Because when we are not taking full, long breaths, it's because there's a part of us that doesn't feel safe. When we are triggered, when we are processing some intense emotion or an unwanted emotion, we're going to hold a lot of that tension in our stomach, which is why if you've got digestion issues, sometimes that can be a result of chronic stress, chronic tension, chronic trauma. And so be mindful of your breath. Am I holding it? Can I take bigger breath to allow that emotion to rise, to allow that emotion to get processed? So, really being able to be aware of your breath is going to be so powerful in understanding what your triggers are. If you are walking into a room or you notice that there's this recurring pattern of hanging out with someone or going to a restaurant where you're holding your breath, you're holding that tension, that is a beautiful place to start diving deeper into understanding the trigger or the emotion that's around it. If you are new to exploring emotions, the navigating triggers is going to be a little bit harder, but that's okay. Because even though things are hard, doesn't mean that you can't make them fun, and it doesn't mean that they're impossible. So just becoming aware of your emotions and the physical responses that you're doing, being mindful of your breath. Because it's in that state of awareness that you're going to have more power and choice in being able to navigate your emotions, your anxiety, your stress, your fear of abandonment with more authenticity and more control. So that awareness is something that is the first key. And I'm also going to ask that you take it with you for these next 4 steps, because that sense of awareness is really going to is your internal compass. It's your internal compass of maybe when to slow down and when to ground. So having some grounding techniques throughout all of this can be really powerful. I'll share 2 with you, one now, and then the other one at the end is like a little bonus tip. But one really great way to kind of process maybe the intense emotion of fear is if you tap right here, right along your pinky finger and your ring finger. You just kind of give it little taps. And the reason is because this is right on your triple warmer meridian, which is connected to your fight, flight, or freeze. So when you are noticing that you've got some shallow breath, that you're in that state of hypervigilance, anxiety, panic attack, survival, just really start tapping here. It's a beautiful way to ground back into the body and to help regulate your nervous system. So that's just one kind of little grounding tip that I want to share with you that can be really easy and really fun. And so the second way to understand your emotions is to acknowledge them. Oftentimes we hit this point of, okay, I understand that I'm feeling stressed, my breathing is shallow, and then we skip this place of acknowledgement. Don't skip the step of acknowledgement, because you deserve to be acknowledged. All parts of you, including your triggers and including your emotions. Be able to hold that part of yourself with awareness, with compassion, because if not, no one else is going to. And that's just the truth. Only you can acknowledge yourself in that initial stage of healing, of growth, and of understanding your triggers. So once you've noticed that you're holding your breath, maybe you've done this little grounding technique, or you notice that, oh my goodness, I'm feeling intense. For me, when I get triggered, it feels like a state of paralysis. Yesterday, when I was triggered going to the spa, I found like I was frozen. Over time, our trauma responses change. because of the trauma that I've gone through, how I process my triggers today is going to be very different than how I processed them 5 or 6 years ago. Now my trigger response is this kind of paralysis, this feeling of freezing, holding my breath, and just kind of looking around in a state of hypervigilance. Once you are aware of how that's going to show up, hold that container for a moment. Hey, I notice I'm feeling stressed. I notice that I'm feeling paralyzed. I notice that my breathing has become shallow. Let me just take a moment and connect to this, acknowledge it. Hey, I acknowledge that my body is sending me the signal right now from a place of safety, from a place of survival, because it's got something for me. It wants me to become aware of something. That same thing, maybe if you're not catching it in your body, but you're catching it in your mind, in that place of what ifs, that fortune teller comes out that's giving all the predictions of the future. Acknowledge it. Hey, fortune teller, thanks for showing up right now. Right now, I'd like to just take a pause and maybe take some breaths with you, maybe practice this grounding exercise. But it's in that space of acknowledgement that your triggers are going to feel more comfortable. Your emotions are going to feel more comfortable to share the messages with you, not just the alarm bells that are, let's freak out. So really being able to acknowledge is going to start to create a deeper sense of inner trust. And it's going to start to give you a deeper sense of regulation and safety when it comes to navigating your emotions and your triggers. So that is the second thing, is just making sure that you're acknowledging yourself, your emotions, whatever is coming up for you. Give it voice, give it space. Whether it's saying words, whether it's sharing it with a friend, journaling, or whether it's you just processing it in your mind of saying, let me just take this moment of acknowledgement. Whatever it is, it's awesome. It's perfect. It's unique to you. And remember, no judgment. This is your stepping stone, your path. You get to go at whatever pace you feel comfortable and safe in. So the third thing, that's confusing, the third thing that I want to share with you is validate. Validate your emotions, validate your triggers, validate the experience that you're having. Validation allows you to feel seen and heard. Oftentimes in the world and society and the culture that we live in, we grow up with a lot of external validation. Give me the gold sticker. Give me the gold star. Honey, tell me that you love me. Honey, give me these things. We go to these external sources for validation because we haven't really been taught to validate ourselves. No judgment, and it's okay. Validation can be really difficult, like acknowledgement and self-awareness, because no one teaches us how to do it. So give yourself a break and ask yourself, how can I make validation just more of a process for me, even outside of your triggers? Can you validate yourself for doing the great things? Can you validate yourself for snoozing your alarm? Just start to build that validation muscle, because it's going to build not only that inner trust, but also your confidence in being able to navigate intense emotions. What I mean by validating is just, once you've acknowledged that you're having it, connect to why. Why am I feeling this way? I'm going to this, yesterday, coming back to my story, I was going to the spa for the first time. I shouldn't have been feeling that space of trigger, that space of paralysis, but I gave myself the validation once I acknowledged it. Okay, why am I feeling this way? Oh, because of the physical trauma that I've gone through. No wonder I'm feeling scared. No wonder I'm feeling a little paralyzed. Being able to validate why you're feeling the way that you're feeling is going to help take off that blanket of shame and take off that blanket of guilt. And it's going to allow you just to say, you know what? No, I do deserve to feel like this. Because everything you think and feel is for a reason. I promise. If you don't believe me, then go ahead and drop dare in the comments, and I will follow up with you and tell you all the different ways, including the science behind it. But coming back to this, being able to validate yourself, telling yourself, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? Is it because of this experience that I've had? Is it because I didn't sleep well last night? Is it because I haven't been able to exercise for a few weeks because of work, injury, whatever it is? Find that place of validation, because it's going to give you a deeper sense of connection and take off shame and guilt, and you're going to respond from a different place. I mean, think about it. When you feel guilty, how do you respond? When you feel validated or seen and heard, how do you respond? Two very different responses that are going to happen in the body and in the mind, even from like cognitive science space. So, how can you start to validate yourself so that you can really move from that place of safety and from that place of feeling seen and heard? And just validating. So that's the third step. The fourth step that I want to share with you is just to become aware of the inner talks that you have. What are the inner narrative that's going on? What is happening in your brain? Being aware, because when we're validating our emotions, when we're validating ourselves, oftentimes there's going to be that other part of us that's going to be resisting it. The judge is going to come out, the inner critic. That's like, well, it doesn't matter, you shouldn't be triggered, you shouldn't be upset, that wasn't that big of a deal anyway, so what? Rub some dirt in it. Pain is weakness leaving the body. Whatever it is that your mind's going to go on. That inner critic, that inner talk is more often than not going to show up, especially in the beginning stages of understanding your trigger. As you're understanding your trigger, you're rewiring parts of your brain and you're regulating your nervous system and rewiring that pattern as well. So really being able to become aware of the negative self-talk or the ruminating thought patterns, the inner critic, the judge that's showing up, is going to give you more power, because you're going to be able to say, hey, this is a part of me that is a response to this trauma. This is a part of me that is a response to being under the blanket of shame and guilt for so long. I say that it's really important to understand this process, because we can find ourselves judging ourselves for thinking this way. Why am I thinking this? Why is this thought pattern coming up? I should be over this by now. If you've ever said that, you're not alone. It still happens to all of us, including myself. But really being able to hold that container for those negative thoughts and just listen to them. Say, hey, I get it. Challenge them, give them that validation response that you had done in the step before. And the fifth thing that I want to share with you is to be compassionate. When it comes to understanding your triggers, it's going to be something new for you. It's going to be something new for many of us, even myself. I am the trigger queen, and I've been working with triggers for a really long time. But the beautiful thing about life is our triggers are going to change, because triggers are part of the human experience. So there's always going to be a new trigger that shows up, or there's going to be a trigger that has evolved and morphed like a Pokemon into a different aspect of itself. Be compassionate when you're exploring these parts of yourself. Because without compassion, you're going to find yourself burying yourself deeper in shame, in guilt, in judgment. And there's no judgment in healing. When that part of ourselves kicks off, we go into a state of survival. So the brain is actually going to be responding differently. Be compassionate. Connect to your why. Why do you want to understand your triggers? Why do you want to understand your emotions? You are doing this from a place of choice. You are choosing to take action. You are choosing to understand your triggers, and that deserves a lot of respect and a lot of compassion. So that is the fifth thing that I want to share with you. But don't worry, I didn't forget that I was going to share this bonus tip as well. I shared this grounding technique of really right along the triple meridian to kind of warm that. Another great way to kind of process your triggers or to help regulate your system is to have an ice cold drink nearby. Having something ice cold is going to really calm and soothe the nervous system. And so it's really going to help you navigate maybe things of stress or anxiety that you might be experiencing. It's just a really gentle, easy way to start creating that sense of safety while you're preparing the stage for your self-awareness, your acknowledgments, your validations, your awareness of the inner critic or that judge that comes out, and being compassionate with yourself. To recap, those are the 5 ways to really start to understand your triggers. Thank you so much for joining me in these Thursday Tickles, the time where I tickle you with information for your personal expansion. If you want more around this, I'm here for it all, always. There's a link in my bio for my next free event, May 25th, called Ladies, Calm the Chaos in Your Mind. I'm going to share 3 tips to really overcome your emotional triggers so you can break free of old patterns and really live a life of safety, deep inner trust, and stability. So the link is in the comments and the link is in the bio. Thank you so much, everybody, for being with me. I'm Des Caminos, and I'll see you next Thursday for our next Thursday Tickle. Sending love and light always. Bye. Awkward time where I get off live.